Hello, BookTube, I'm Jonathan, and whoa, am I a ghost? Oh man, that's really gonna mess up my weekend. Hello, BookTube, I'm Jonathan, and today I'm gonna be sharing some scary sci-fi books I plan to read in the month of October. Now, I don't read or watch a lot of horror, but this month I'm gonna be a very brave boy and read some, at least somewhat scary and somewhat sci-fi books, starting with The Long Walk by Stephen King. Ray Garrity is about to compete in the grueling annual competition of stamina and wits known as The Long Walk. 100 boys must keep a steady pace of 4 miles per hour, and there is no finish line. The winner is the last man standing. Slow down under the speed limit and you're given a warning. 3 warnings and you're out of the game. Permanently. Stephen King is the master of horror, and while this isn't a supernatural horror book, it does take place in a rather horrific dystopian future, so I'm gonna say it counts. The Long Walk wasn't Stephen King's first book to be published, but it was the first book that he wrote, starting it when he was around 19 in 1966. And I'm sure it went through some editing before it was published in 1979 under his pen name of Richard Bachman, but it's still very impressive that he wrote such a book at such a young age. Now, other than The Long Walk, the only other books I've read from Stephen King are the Dark Tower books, and I loved this series. It can be a little bit inconsistent, but the high points are amazing. And I love the way he combined the Western, fantasy, horror, and science fiction genres. We're currently only a few days into the month, but I have actually finished this book already. I binged it in a couple of days, partly due to how readable it was, and also because I wanted to finish it before going to see the movie. The Long Walk is a simple story, with a group of boys walking along a road, slowly getting eliminated one by one. But King does a great job of developing the pacing, as he perfectly balances the tension of the walk with some entertaining dialogue between the characters. The book takes place in a future where the country is experiencing economic strife and lives under a totalitarian regime. The exact year isn't specified, but there is one clue that jumps out when a page from a magazine floats by in which there is a picture of John Travolta. So I'm guessing this is supposed to take place around 1 or 2 decades in the future from when the book was published. I thought King did a good job of introducing a large number of walkers, while also creating interesting relationships between the core cast of characters. At times, the dialogue felt just a little bit written rather than natural dialogue, but I felt like the core truths behind the interactions and the internal emotions felt very real to the experiences of these teenagers. Another thing that worked well was the book really makes you feel the physical toll of this walk. The effect that it would have on your feet, your legs, your back, really made it a suitably grueling reading experience. When it came to the ending of the book, I liked it but didn't love it. After getting so invested in the characters on this walk, I was expecting this big emotional gut punch, and instead what I got was something a little murky. Now, quickly moving over to the film, I think it does a good job of staying true to the core of the book, and I think it shares some of the same strengths, although it does make some changes. And one of these is that it feels even more stripped back. It was probably for budgetary reasons, but it only features 50 walkers instead of 100, and it doesn't include crowds. So just know that these kids walking along the road is pretty much the entire movie. A couple of other minor changes included dropping the required walking speed from 4 miles per hour to 3. And I think this is more realistic in terms of what is physically possible, considering how far they walk. And they also changed the frequency of warnings from every 30 seconds to every 10, because in a book, 30 seconds can pass pretty quickly, so they dropped it to 10 in the movie just to keep the pacing up. Now, I think some of the character dynamics worked really well in the movie, and I was impressed with some of the performances, including Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson. I'm a fan of Mark Hamill, but I felt like his character, the Major, was just a little bit one-dimensional. I was hoping they would flesh him out a little bit more in the movie, and we didn't really get that. And some of the other characters were a bit of a mixed bag. I quite liked Olsen, but I felt like they really missed the mark with Stebbins. The film also changes some of the character motivations in the story, and I found the motivations in the book to be really interesting, but King didn't necessarily fully explore all of the thematic implications that I wanted him to. Whereas in the movie, I felt like some of those motivations were a little bit more decisive, They were just maybe slightly less interesting than the ones in the book. And lastly, the film went in a clearer direction with the ending. It just wasn't one that really worked for me, which is a shame because I think it correctly identified some elements of the book that could have been improved upon. I just wasn't the biggest fan of their solutions. In the end, I gave the book an 8 out of 10 and the film a 7 out of 10. So the next book I'm going to read this month is the Patron pick, as determined by the Quantum Wheel. So let's take a look and see what spooky season has in store for us. Welcome to the Quantum Wheel where, oh great, I'm dead again. This is why I don't make plans. Oh good, I'm back. Welcome to the Quantum Wheel where all of the Patron picks are both simultaneously picked and not picked until we observe a winner. Let's find out what I'll be reading in the month of October. Hopefully something scary, but not too scary. Alright, Quantum Wheel, what does spooky season have in store? Looks like it might be... Dead Silence! Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. When a beacon repair crew picks up a strange distress signal, Claire and her team decide to investigate. What they find is a shock. A luxury space liner that vanished more than 20 years ago. Aboard they encounter whispers in the dark, flickers of movement, and words scrawled in blood. How do they avoid the same ghastly fate? I haven't heard too much about this book, but it sounds like it might be the kind of sci-fi horror that I'm looking for. The tagline is, a ghost ship, a salvage crew, unspeakable horrors. And look at that hand pressed against the window. Whew, wouldn't want to be that guy. Anyway, S.A. Barnes is the pen name used by the author Stacey Cade for her sci-fi horror novels, and I haven't read anything by her before, but this seems to have a bit of an alien type vibe to it, so I'm looking forward to trying this book. Let me know if you've read this one, and if you haven't, feel free to join us in October. Alright, for my next October read, I picked I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. Robert Neville is the last living man on Earth. But he is not alone. Every other man, woman, and child on the planet has become a vampire, and they are hungry for Neville's blood. By day, he is the hunter, stalking the undead through the ruins of civilization. By night, he barricades himself in his home and prays for the dawn. How long can one man survive like this? So this is a horror book with vampires, but seeing as it's a post-apocalyptic story set around 20 years in the future, I think we can count it under the broad umbrella of science fiction. Personally, I haven't read a lot of vampire material, but I did enjoy Peter Watts' take on vampires in Blindsight, and I watched Sinners earlier this year and thought that movie was fantastic. So maybe this book, if I enjoy it, will encourage me to step out a little bit more into the world of vampires. This is a classic by Matheson, and I also own a copy of his book The Shrinking Man, so I'm looking forward to finally trying some of his writing. Let me know how you think this one stacks up. And then my final selection for the month is The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney. On a quiet fall evening in the small, peaceful town of Mill Valley, California, Dr. Miles Bennell discovered an insidious, horrifying plot. Silently, subtly, almost imperceptibly, alien life forms were taking over the bodies and minds of his neighbors, his friends, his family, the woman he loved, the world as he knew it. This is one that seems like a great fit, as it features an alien invasion that takes place in a creepy and unsettling way. The premise reminds me a little of The Thing, which I am a massive fan of, so I'm also looking forward to watching the film adaptations. This novel was the basis for a number of films, with the 1956 and 1978 adaptations being the most well-regarded. I haven't read anything by Jack Finney before, but his time travel novel, Time and Again, is on my TBR, so if this is something that I enjoy, I might have to bump that one higher up my list. And before we wrap up, I do have a quick bonus book, as there is a chance I might receive an early copy of Shadows Upon Time, the final book in the Sun Eater series. Would I say Sun Eater counts as horror? Not exactly, but the alien Cielson can be pretty scary, so it's not too far a departure from the theme of spooky season, and I am just a massive fan of this series. I have been ever since I picked it up in 2021, and I can't wait to see how it ends. So whenever I do get my hands on a copy of it, it is definitely going straight to the top of my priority list. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash or just gently click the subscribe button. And if you really enjoyed it, consider checking out the perks of becoming a Patreon member, where you can become one of my robots, androids, or cyborgs like Nima, a New Eden, Half Ogre, Zakawe, Samil, and the creepy Colin. And you can find, oh dang it, I'm a ghost again. Not sure how to fix this. Maybe try clicking this video over here? Yeah, that ought to do it.